Well, Charles, this is the Super Bowl of stupidity.
The superb owl,
The
indeed.
stupid bowl.
Exactly.
Joe Biden is in a competition for the dumbest person ever.
Since the invention of football, if not longer than that.
We're outside the fake news corporation.
Actually, they've gotten better. Of late, I'd say the Jesse Waters show at 7 is actually pretty good. And Brett has come back around to more critical thinking and less playing to be on the good side of the incoming Biden administration. But and Tucker is on fire. I mean, Tucker really, he has too many guests, in my opinion, per hour. But his opening monologue is now almost 15 minutes, commercial free. And he's quite impassioned, for example, about the truckers.
Right, we should talk about that for sure. But can I just ask you for a moment about the elephant in this room?
Sure.
It was almost 60 degrees yesterday, and today it's snowing.
Global warming, Jason. It's obvious. It's obvious because it's colder. It's due to global warming. That's irrefutable. I'm following the science.
But it's definitely weird, isn't it?
I actually think it's not. I think it's actually not that cold for this time of year. I mean, I remember
58 is too warm, isn't it?
58 is way too warm. But I remember, I think it was in the 90s, before I even knew anything about Bosnia, going down to, trying to go to my neighbor's house for dinner with my nannies and my 2 kids. And it was so fucking cold that the driveway had turned into a sheet of ice. And I couldn't even, I had a 4-wheel drive Jeep, which was very, very good in that kind of weather. And I couldn't even make a turn. So I decided we're going to go to dinner. We dressed warmly. We walked the driveway. If you walked the length of the driveway, it was half a mile, but we went down the side of a hill. So it was probably only 300 yards or something. And I felt like a Bosnian refugee. I mean, it was really, really cold. I mean, there were days, I got a COVID test on the way. There were days up there, I think the coldest day while I was living up there was minus 38 Fahrenheit.
Wow.
And that was in a January, February timeframe. That's cold. You really notice the cold.
I would say.
You go outside, and for about the first step or two, you think everything's fine. Then you breathe in.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, whoa, whoa, what is up with this?
Now, Charles, we got a COVID tent right here.
Yeah, stupid, I think it is, not COVID. Stupid 22.
Well, I've just been kind of asking the crowd, like, if people can look around at labwork.com and sort of figure out who owns it, who pays for these different COVID tests, and if anybody's bothered to do an audit of how accurate the testing procedure is, the training of the people. Who gets sued if you get injured with those people poking your brain?
I don't know.
A lot of questions.
Well, actually, I saw him. I was talking to you this morning about it, and I also, on my Twitter feed, I think there's somebody referring to 50 million doses of one kind of vaccine or another being pulled back from the market because there are too many incidents when people take that vaccine of immediately testing positive for HIV. And I don't know if that's a bullshit story or I didn't check it, but it was, I mean, so much of this.
I heard false positives for HIV was a story I saw.
False positive, testing positive. Incorrectly, in theory, but, maybe not incorrectly, right?
I don't know.
So, you can say what you want about, quote, following the science, which was one of those stupid, debate-ending phrases that the uninformed use to show how smart they are when, in fact, they're proving how stupid they are. But
I've heard of the word science.
I'm following it.
Yes.
But the point, though, is that what the upshot of all this, and Tucker actually made this point in a slightly different way on Friday, who trusts the medical profession now?
Yeah, not me. I'm very concerned about trying to not be injured or having to go to the hospital or the doctor.
Right. I mean, at the very least, if you get an alarming diagnosis, you certainly want a second opinion, even from your longtime doctor.
I think that's prudent
Yeah.
always.
Yeah, but certainly not from Stupid Joe. So anyway, I don't want to lose the art department here, which is, once again, we do not have the light, and the
Wow.
cop's gonna.
They're just delighted to run us over.
Sure.
Well, but thank you for mentioning it, Charles. And let me just point out that today we're marking the superb owl, and today is not just Sunday; it's Any Given Superb Owl Sunday. I didn't see that movie, Any Given Sunday, but this poster, we've got Dumb Joe yelling, we've got Hillary there waiting in the wings to do whatever the hell she's going to do. And the usual suspects, Bill, Barack, Austin, what's his name? Lloyd Austin, and Anthony Blinken.
Anthony Stinkin. I mean, he's the least qualified Secretary of State in recent history. I mean,
I
you could
think
probably
that's right.
you could probably take any one of these homeless people, dress them up, de-lice them, give them 30 days at a spa or something like that, give them some decent outfits, and have that person just show up at a departmental meeting, show up at the microphone to make points, and that person would do a better job than this idiot Anthony Blinken, who projects weakness. I mean, he comes across as like,
Dumb.
the vice dean of the political science department in some cow college in the Midwest. I mean, he's not. he is not somebody who strikes fear into the hearts of our enemies.
No.
And
by contrast, I have to say, anytime I've seen Sergei Lavrov speak,
oh yeah, he's great.
he seems like a very reasonable man who is thoughtful in what he says, and kind of one of these like college professor types who you might look up to.
With a great sense of humor, and English isn't his first language. I mean, it's like
Right.
a disarming sense of humor. I love that in people.
I mean, he's quite obviously an extremely intelligent guy,
Right.
and when you sit down in a meeting with a counterpart and they're as unimpressive as Anthony Blinken is, don't you get annoyed?
Yeah, you leave. Yeah, could you send me the real Secretary of
Right.
State? It's like that episode I think I've told you before during one of the Bosnian-related peace conferences. There were two participants in, I forget, neighboring countries or whatever, were meeting, I think, in Versailles or its equivalent in France. And they were in this big room and talking energetically, and the doors swung open. There you go, Jason. I wouldn't pick it up.
I don't think you can.
Could get COVID from it. So the door gets flung open, and this short woman starts to walk in or tries to walk into the room, and one of these guys says to the short woman, "You can clean the room later. We're busy now."
Oh, and it's going to be
Madeline Albright.
Oh man! What did she say?
She didn't take it well.
Hey, me too.
She did not take that well. Or should
Wow.
she? That's a really
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
demeaning comment. But I mean, this collection. A fish does rot from the head, and you start with this moron who was interviewed by Lester Holt, and I don't know why Biden is so belligerent against black interviewers. If you think about it, Charlemagne
right.
the God, you ain't black,
And then he called Lester Holt a wise guy.
right? And there was another black person he made fun of. I forget who, but anyway, he's to make the comment. I mean, Holt asked him fairly about inflation, and really people who claim to be advocates of the poor and the underclass in the Democrat Party are just blithely ignoring the unbelievable pain that happens when inflation bites on people who don't have debt capacity and don't have wealth and do have to fill up their cars to get to work if they're working, and fill up their cars to run errands for their kids and grandparents, and gas prices are double what they were.
Well, and then
with
if
Trump.
you have something like a car accident, you're
Right.
just totally out.
Right, and this is before we see how car insurance premiums get repriced, home insurance premiums, health insurance premiums.
That dope who hit me did not even have insurance.
Sure. So with Biden, though, the first comment about inflation, I mean, anybody who wants to be on the Green New Deal, plane, needs to divest himself or herself of any more than one dwelling, right? I mean, if you want to seriously argue that we need to do our part to reduce consumption of fossil fuels.
And I was going to say, if it's more than 1,000 square feet per person living there, they should also STFU.
Right, and I have no problem if you can afford it, and you want to have a Buckingham Palace with 1,000 rooms in it, you can pay for it.
Don't tell me what to do.
Don't go Prince Charlesing me about global warming when you're flying your own helicopter and private jet and multiple homes and you never worked a day in your fucking life.
Exactly.
But back on Biden then he destroyed the Democrat Party and his own political legacy by that incorrect answer as well.
What was the answer?
Oh, you just have to have peace of mind.
Oh, right.
What are you talking about? I mean, you're the high priest of Est? I mean, you're crazy. So, and then Holt says, well, do you have any regrets about the way you fled or left, I think he said.
And he said no.
No, he said even worse. He said, well, we were never going to fix Iraq.
Right.
And then he hits his head with his hand. It says, Afghanistan. He says Afghanistan. I mean, he's saying the quiet part out loud. And as I've been saying for a while, really for quite a while, what he's doing here is what the people around him are doing is elder abuse. And it sends a horrible message to people.
He's MVP of the Stupid Bowl.
Well, but still, the people who supposedly care for this fucker should be saying, look, enough. You can't do this anymore, Joe. You are plainly off your game. We can't fix the many. You've already made too many messes, and we've got 3 years left of this crap. You've got to step down before you fall down.
Well, so Hillary Clinton, you mentioned, is going to be giving some speech at the Democratic. What is it?
Well, I think the state Democratic Party has a convention on the 16th and 17th at the Sheraton Hotel here in New York, and I think Hillary is making light of her emails. And I have quite a few. I have a 5-part Twitter feed yesterday on that, and I had some few choice points today on Twitter as well. But in essence, she's making light of the email fiasco she's had hats printed up that say, but her emails, and she's pictured wearing one, and she's selling them.
Well, and they're doing it simultaneous with this persecution of Trump over essentially doing the same thing.
No, it's not even.
No.
It's a very different thing. And that's what I point out. Sorry to cut you off.
Much less.
No. In the case of Hillary Clinton, as I point out in the email, 100% of the traffic that we know about, which may not include all of her traffic, was sent over using unvetted electronic devices, which are certainly not secure.
Well, it invites hacking.
Right, but she had Secret Service people outside protecting,
guarding
the emails, guarding the emails to make sure they were safe, and using private servers. 100%. That is not the case of Trump at all. Now, if he did take classified material to Mar-a-Lago and keep it there, that is wrong. And he should pay some sort of a price for that. I don't know what the fair price is. But if you're going to go down that track, what Hillary did is she took 100% of her emails were stolen from the State Department and kept in Chappaqua and in Washington, D.C.
Well, stolen the moment they were sent.
Right, I'm saying for at least 4 years in certain cases, and not returned to the Department of State or wherever they were returned to until December 14th, I believe it was, or December 4th in that time frame. Sorry, December 2014, right? So she leaves February 1st, 2013, keeps all this stuff as her personal property, in effect, and then returns it. And, many thieves, when caught, try to get by with saying, you know what, I'll give it back, I'm sorry.
Right.
No, my bad. You still stole it.
Yeah.
So it's very, very different. 100% of everything that she did versus a portion of what Trump may have done. And again, we don't know. These are reports by Maggie Haberman, who, frankly,
What's coming from reports of Mary Hagan?
Maggie Haberman has a book coming out October 4th called Confidence Man. Whoa! I don't know that this is a great idea.
And it's about what?
It's about Trump. Pre-Trump, pre-White House, and post-White House. And I've met with Maggie Haberman twice and interacted with her in the 16 timeframe. Roger Stone introduced me to her, actually. And
Wow.
and I tried to make the case for her to cover the foundation, and she just lamely came back and said, "This is out of my wheelhouse. I just don't know anything about foundations. I can't do it." She referred me to colleagues who didn't do anything about it.
Of course.
And Maggie Haberman has a blatant conflict of interest. Her father-in-law is Vartan Gregorian, who is a wealthy immigrant, if he's still alive, who became a scholar and had a host of high-profile jobs at, I think, various American universities. I forget the exact ones, but I'm pretty certain he was a high-level guy at the University of Pennsylvania. He was the president of the New York Public Library, and he spent a long
Did he know
time.
Sandusky?
I don't know. And he was. That's not Pennsylvania. That's
Penn State?
Penn State, yeah.
Sorry.
So it's okay. And he didn't know Newt Rockney either. But anyway, street
Yeah, exactly.
moron.
No shortage, Charles.
And he was actually also president of the Carnegie Foundation, which is the oldest American charity.
Oh, really?
It does file, I believe, one of the oldest, and it files its 990s and New York State forms properly in New York. It gives all the, any foreign grant donations that it's received. It files those particulars. And Vartan Gregorian is on the board of the Hunter Foundation. He's an outside board member of the Hunter Foundation, which is the Clinton Hunter, or the Hunter, whatever it is, Clinton
You mean
Development Initiative, is a complete fraud. It was, the Tom Hunter,
Oh,
the
I
guy,
don't know
the
that.
Scottish. Yeah, we've done the shows on it. The Scottish, in quote,
forgetting
industrialist. He's the guy who. The story about him is that in Glasgow, Scotland, he came up with the idea of competing with Adidas and Reebok.
Oh, right.
And
They just stole the shoes. or
I don't know
whatever.
about stealing them, but he claims that he manufactured. What?
Well, why is the post office
It's-
working on Sunday?
It does. They cut a deal, I think, with Amazon or something, and they.
So that guy is doing something with Reeboks and Adidas.
Well, but I mean, how credible? I've never been to Glasgow, but it's not exactly the first place you think of when you think about low-cost, high-volume manufacturing of
Right.
anything, right? So
Not
how does
really.
a startup in Scotland get into the business of competing against Adidas and Reebok and others, and then rise to a point where he did sell it for a lot of money,
I don't know.
and then he became interested in development. But when you read through the Podesta WikiLeaks emails, there are quite a few emails of great concern about the doings of Hunter's kids in Africa in the guise of his charity down there. And that's the game in Africa. You walk in and you say, I'm a philanthropist, I want to help. You get to know the president of the country, and then you say to the president, listen, you see all the help I'm doing, why don't you help me help you?
Right.
And what we're going to do here is you're going to give me a concession on cobalt, or you're going to give me
Right.
oil, or you're going to give me gold or whatever, and I'll get foreign aid money through my buddy Bill Clinton, and we'll give you a taste of it in Switzerland. I'm not saying specifically that Hunter did those things, but the emails, but his emails that are still in WikiLeaks Podesta file do evidence specific concerns over what the Hunter family, the kids, the next generation, might have been doing in places like Rwanda and other African countries where this Clinton Hunter Development Initiative claims to be
What were they
operating.
doing?
Well, they created a coffee company. That's not a charity. They created various and sundry farming activities. And, when you set up a charity in the 1023, the application for federal tax exemption, there's specific questions. Do you intend to engage in economic development? And the reason for that is that people who understand business and charity understand that you can cross lines by claiming that you're engaged in charitable economic development when what you're really doing is lining your own pockets.
Right.
And they, on the Clinton Foundation, they said no, in various applications. So magically, by 2005-6 time frame, Tom Hunter is teaming up with Bill Clinton to do, quote, economic development. But as far as I can tell, there certainly is no Clinton Hunter Development Initiative registered in New York, where I believe its affairs were directed. And there may be, I haven't tried to check in Rwanda and other places like that. That's for later. But
You gonna go get those shoes, Charles?
which ones?
That guy was wearing platform Doc Martens.
Oh, of course, got to get those. Then you'll think I am the toll brother.
Oh yeah, everybody was excited to meet your brother yesterday on the show, and then look at this, they're releasing the Kraken, Charles.
Where?
Well, that is some octopus or something.
Oh,
Marrera.
I see.
Maria. Is this new?
I don't remember it.
Yeah, I don't
Somebody
remember
spent
either.
some serious coin on it.
On
We
an
are
octopus
strictly
restaurant.
enforcing social distancing. Nobody is coming to our restaurant. So here we are in Columbus Circle. We were here in June of 2020
Yep.
to observe Hawk Newsom and his communist girlfriend stand up and in the case of the communist girlfriend who was running for Congress, she stood up and said, I'm not trying to change America, I'm trying to destroy America. So that's a great platform. And of course, people were all in for supporting BLM and remain all in for supporting BLM when they're burning buildings and engaging in criminal behavior, and even in some cases, I think in the CHOP, and I don't know if BLM was directly involved in the CHOP in the Seattle thing, a guy was raped by a man in front of his family.
Right, but
You know.
Charles, all that's okay. If you stop a truck on a bridge, you're a terrorist.
Let's go around and then, yeah. The double standard here is not acceptable.
Here's more COVID testing.
Yeah. Do I get a free sunflower?
Maybe a donut.
Now, who's
Or
going to go
coffee.
around in one of those bikes today?
I don't know. I mean,
There used to be horse-drawn carriages, right?
well, those are more towards the middle of the park, but yeah, so far it's just people sitting in the tents checking their email.
Getting coffee. You want to get
It's amazing how
do you
the people
pronounce
who are
it?
running these tents don't look like experienced medical technicians. They
Of
look
course
more.
not. Well, I mean, you got Dr. Fauci, right? But look at these prices here, Jason. $4 for
Wow,
a hot
for
dog.
one hot dog,
$11
Wow.
for two and whatever.
$8 for a hot dog with fries.
A corn dog, they don't have no prices.
Corn dog? Well, it's seasonal.
Chili cheese fries. I
If
mean,
you'd
a
have
New,
to
York,
ask, you can't afford the corn dog.
a New York cheese fry. This guy bought some land off me in Ankrum.
Pat LaFrida?
Yeah, jerk.
It doesn't seem like something that you should eat. Actually, Trump loves Pat LaFrida. He's always talking
Is he
about
really?
him
Why?
I seem to remember hearing about it on Apprentice. He was involved, Pat LaFrida, there was sort of like a game show Apprentice, right? He would give them assignments, and I feel like sometimes it involved something to do with Pat LaFrida. And here's another COVID testing van.
Right. Yeah, Pat is he's built up, he's a specialist in lamb and game. And not somebody I ever want to deal with again.
Sorry to hear about that.
There's the fount of all evil right there.
What?
CNN.
Oh, yeah. what's going to happen now with the Cuomo brothers at CNN.
Well, I mean, CNN is a joke. You see that Babylon Bee piece last week?
I don't remember. What did it
Well,
say?
it said that the new company policy at CNN is everybody's going to have to wear a chastity belt.
Oh, I did see that, yeah.
So what do you think? We're on 8th Avenue here. Should we go to 9th and down, or
Yeah, whatever.
do you want to go down to Trump Tower?
Whatever you
No,
think.
you're the producer-director. You tell me.
You're the tour guide, though, Charles.
Well, why don't we go around this way and we'll go down to
Sure.
Trump Tower, down 5th, and maybe down Madison as well. Just
Now,
see
there was a
what's
bunch
left.
of other things, though, that we were going to talk about here today.
Whatever you want, Jason.
Justin Trudeau gave some kind of speech. They're basically saying that the truckers are, racists, misogynists.
You don't
all
get
that.
to say that. I mean, you can
Well,
say
he
that.
said it.
You can say that, but you have to have evidence to back it up.
Oh
And-
no, he doesn't like evidence.
Well, one of the things that Tucker said, which may or may not be true, and we can check it obviously, in the United States, truckers are very important, but they're not a gigantic share of our workforce. We have last I checked, we have about 130 million full-time equivalent workers. I haven't checked recently. And that's an interesting concept because you have the correction factor. You've got some people who work 2 jobs. You got people who work only part-time. And you got some people who have full-time jobs, so maybe they're working, not getting, I used to work 60 and 70 hours a week and I was not paid overtime. I was well paid, but I wasn't paid overtime. So, to normalize all that and try to come up with a consistent figure to use year by year so you can establish a trend is not so easy and is prone to bullshit. But up in Canada, Tucker was making the claim, which I tend to believe, that truckers represent 1 in 10 of all workers.
Wow.
1 in 10. So it's a very, and that does make a certain amount of sense to me because Canada is so big and people are concentrated in cities there. And so to move goods around, you probably do need quite a few truckers. And, it makes sense. So this is, it's not like all hula hoop instructors are out on strike. I mean, these are, no disrespect meant to hula hoop instructors, but I would guess there are not many of them.
What would you do without hula hoops?
Somehow I survived for much of my adult life without a hula hoop.
Hulu just announced that they're bringing back Futurama. Perhaps the hoops have something to do with that.
I guess. Futurama, some of those cartoon shows are hilarious. My personal favorite is Family Boy. And I think that Buttigieg reminds me of Stewie.
Well, but you were saying that Buttigieg and Trudeau were part of the
Macron as well. The World Economic Forum world
Future
leader,
leaders.
and Chelsea Clinton as well.
So we know who these criminals are
Right.
and what they're up to. But the thing is, Justin Trudeau made a point of saying that, because yesterday I went on a walk to show everybody that it was almost 60 degrees, and now it's pretty interesting that it's snowing today. And one of the things that I spoke about is that, this trucker thing, people have to be very careful that when something gets as effective as it is right here,
Let's go down 56th, or
the-
57th actually.
what the opposition then tries to do is to infiltrate it
Right.
and do something like what I heard Trudeau talk about today. Trudeau said, okay, now this trucker movement has done something to disrupt 911 call centers. So he's going to try to say, okay, now it's a crime and now we're going to arrest anybody who's involved or whatever. But it's very easy for somebody to come along and do some kind of disruption,
blame
disrupting those 911 calls, and then blame
Well,
the truckers.
Well, and let's remember that Trudeau himself shut down the border for over a year.
Right.
Over COVID.
Exactly. And I'm just showing everybody right now, Charles, a document created by a hacker that tells people how to disable a 911 call center. And I'm not saying that this individual did that or had anything to do with it.
Right.
I'm just providing a hypothetical and theoretical example of how something like that could be done and how I suspect it's very likely somebody is doing that.
Right. But I think the good people of Canada have had enough. I mean, you think about when we think about inflation, the real number in my mind, if fuel costs are up 100%, which they roughly are, food costs are going to follow, right? Because fuel is an important
Transporting food around.
well, and also the tractor and heating,
Right.
cooling, and all that stuff. So you got to assume that inflation for quite some time now is going to be higher than income growth, which means that your top line income is may grow. You may get fired actually in consequence of this. Well, let's assume it grows. It's going to grow less than inflation, or slower than inflation. And this Nimrod, if he has his way, which I hope he won't, Joe Biden and Nancy, the dumbass, and Chuck, the rat catcher Schumer, if they have their way, they're going to try to raise taxes, and there is no way to narrow the deficit by raising taxes only on the rich. There's just no way. It's a nice pile of garbage.
And it's taking up half the sidewalk,
Yeah.
and they don't even have the mint bags. The rats are going to eat all the garbage. They don't like mint.
So, so you've got the prospect of higher taxation is coming in. Your wages aren't going up, and your costs are storming. And it's in that environment that you really do have the likelihood of riots. I mean, you have around the world, you have in big countries like India, when the price of the basic foods go up, there are actual riots.
Well, I think we're having that was legal weed. I think we're having riots in France right now.
And more to come elsewhere. We could have them here. I'm not encouraging that, but wow, look at this.
Yeah, what is that?
It's
an
apartment building.
building,
Yeah,
I guess.
fancy apartment buildings. Well, here's another piano store. Maybe this is a message from God to me.
Where?
Right ahead.
Oh, wow.
Faust Harrison, pianos. Shall I get a piano to go, Jason?
A Faustian piano?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I'll lay it out here if you want one.
I don't.
Get this one, Charles. You need a yellow piano.
Beethoven. This is yet another piano place. Sauter. S-A-U-T-E-R.
Wow, you're right. Who knew?
Piano Enclave.
So, Charles, what about this invasion of Ukraine
Well,
that
I
Joe
love-
Biden has been...
You heard the latest? The
I don't
president of Ukraine is demanding that the U.S. produce evidence that it may have, suggesting that Russia is going to invade Ukraine.
That's so amazing.
The president of Ukraine doesn't believe it. I mean, you want to,
Wow.
you kind of want to like stand the fuck down when the country in question is saying, we're not really all that concerned about this, but
Well, and when you look at Twitter, people in Ukraine are saying things like, hey, I'm here right now and everything is fine. People need to calm down. It's not helping at all.
he should invade Delaware.
Well, it's like I was saying again yesterday, it's basically like high school where people stand around like, ooh, you gonna fight? You gonna fight? And they keep pushing the guys
Right.
into each other until they fight.
Jason's gonna fight.
But there is no fight.
Right.
It's Joe Biden making a fight.
Yeah.
So will they invade? I mean, Joe Biden
I
is
doubt it.
basically...
I
I mean, will the U.S. invade?
Well, so I think the game plan that Russia is expecting, according to Katya, who's tweeted this out, is that what they're hoping is that conditions will get worse in eastern Ukraine, and the people of eastern Ukraine, as happened in Crimea, will say that they don't feel safe from the Kyiv-based politicians, and they would like to be protected by Russia. And that would be a pretext under which those the equivalent of our Blackwater people would start filtering across the border in eastern Ukraine. And before you know it, there'll be a referendum in eastern Ukraine will vote to join Russia, something like that.
See, I'm very curious, though, because the entire conflict surrounding Joe Biden during the election had to do with allegations of impropriety in Ukraine.
Exactly.
And now he's there stirring up problems with Ukraine. They wanted to impeach Donald Trump over talking to the president of Ukraine and just telling him, hey, we think there's corruption. Do me a favor and check it out.
Right.
And now we've got Biden calling him and saying, get ready to get sacked.
And
by the way, that could have been code for enjoy the superb owl. You're going to get sacked.
Well, and make sure you destroy all those bereavement papers. I'm hearing that we didn't get all of them.
That's what I mean. How is that not the topic? How are we not discussing this?
Well, because Washington, D.C. has descended into insanity a long time ago, alongside the captured media, alongside the financial elites, in venture capital and hedge fund world and Wall Street, alongside academia, alongside what passes for punditry and the charity world. And so the image shapers have been very, very comfortable with this idea that there's going to be an unregulated globalist structure where nobody gets punished, and where, if you were just playing to make a fortune in the tiny country of Norway, now from Norway, you can leave and aspire to be Gro Harlem Brundtland. You can, somebody who's a globalist queen involved in all these, on the board of the UN Foundation and other things like that, and swanning around the world, engaged in suspicious schemes with her, family. That structure is antithetical to what the founders wanted for us here, and to what most people in the countries around the world want for themselves. It's just.
Have you eaten in there?
No.
But it looks pretty good.
Yeah, let's see how expensive it is.
Doesn't it?
A soup of the day, $17.
Wow, that's a lot.
Beefsteak, tomato, mozzarella, and tomato, $15. New York sirloin steak, $65 for a quarter
Holy
race.
cow.
Let's see, a side dish of fries, $13. Mac and cheese, $15.
Lamb chops, $57.95.
Does this seem a little bit steep to you?
Yes.
I mean, this is just the food cost, right? And I would bet the wine list is absurd.
Well, and plus you're going to be paying,
Tip and
30% tax and tip and everything.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I think, you get to a certain point, and restaurants are, I liked restaurants in the old days, before the politicization, the stark politicization of America, but I'm not comfortable going to a restaurant in New York.
Why?
I mean, it's anti-Trump land, and, who knows what they're going to do to your food. Well, that sauce tastes funny. I'm just, no
yeah,
thanks.
I haven't been in a restaurant now in months.
Let's wait.
And I think it's maybe less than, a few times on the road trip, obviously, but like within New York City, I don't think I've been to a dozen restaurant meals in the past 2 years.
There used to be a fantastic restaurant called the Post House. Did you ever go to it?
I think you've told me about it.
It's on like 63rd, it was on like 62nd or 3rd Street, maybe 63rd Street, between Madison and Park, next to the Lowell Hotel. And maybe there's a new restaurant in there, but it was an old-fashioned steakhouse, but not with the sawdust on the floor.
Right.
And the wine list was expensive, but it wasn't absurdly expensive, and the food was just really special, very, very good.
I like Old Homestead for steaks.
They had, I would agree with that. They had something called a Cajun, blackened Cajun ribeye or something like that. It was very good.
So you don't think there's going to be a war or something?
I don't know, Jason. I mean, anything could happen at this point, and apparently there was a phone call that lasted for an hour between Putin and the idiot. And I wonder how many bathroom breaks
and he warned him.
The idiot had to
him.
take. Quality meats.
But Charles, they said that Biden was threatening, warning that there would be repercussions if they invaded.
Yeah.
Isn't that a little bit like, how the hell is Putin going to be intimidated by that? He's making a fool out of himself, Joe Biden.
He has succeeded in that. He's succeeded in kicking his own ass. Let's
He's
look at
making
this for a
fool out
second.
of us.
Look at these here, prices to live here. Okay,
This is this building? Commercial space, it says.
for rent. It doesn't-
2,340.
For sale. How much is this?
What? It's written in Chinese. The commercial space is written in Chinese.
Figures. I don't see any prices here, but
Yeah. Well,
anyway, I was just curious. I mean, the prices are absurd. There's a townhouse for sale around the corner from where I live,
garbage included.
and it's. I don't want to say exactly where it is, but it's a very nice carriage house. It's actually two carriage houses connected, and the thing is, yeah, this is the building that's owned by my friend. It's a pretty nice building. It goes all the way from here to 59th Street. It's gigantic.
Wow.
Right next to the Park Lane Hotel.
Huh.
And it has this alley here. See it?
Why is that good?
It's just nice. But I think at one point they were saying the Park Lane Hotel was worth many hundreds of millions. So if that's worth hundreds of millions, my friend's property is worth more.
Because it's bigger.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is impressive. Well, but Park Lane is way taller, no?
I don't think so. I think you have to. I think his building is taller and closer to 59th Street. He lives on the top 3 floors, or lived on the top 3 floors.
Isn't this the Grace building?
It is.
What goes on in there?
It's office space.
It looks a bit like Fermi Labs.
I think KKR used to be in there.
That's interesting.
Yeah, this is this is in theory location prime stuff, but see how cold it is. It's not even that cold with the wind.
Well, the wind is definitely getting us right in here.
So it's that Dale's place is steps from the plaza here, which the plaza is a real tragedy. It used to be. I remember when I completed raising, or our firm.
Sorry, I'm trying to turn the volume down here. Whoa. It's tricky with
He's
gloves,
juggling
Charles.
phones. Want me to do that for you?
I got it. Did you notice the floor?
It's nice.
It's Masonic.
Why is this Masonic?
The checkerboard pattern is one of their things.
Is that right?
Yes.
I had a checkerboard pattern in my house, and I'm not a Mason.
That's right.
Descended from Masons. Not
Oh,
my
really?
father.
Now the crowd goes crazy, Charles.
Well, I mean, in that time, not my father and not my grandfather, but I'm sorry,
Do you own a
my
fez?
no, my mother's father was a Mason.
Huh.
So here we are, and when I started to say that when we completed the fundraising for our Irish fund, I was staying at the plaza, and I decided to have a meal in the Oak Room, and it was really pleasant to sit there by myself in that beautiful room and have one hell of a meal.
Just even whenever you mention that, all I can think of is phone
Arthur.
call for Roger Thornhill.
Or the Arthur, the opening scene.
No.
of
In
Dudley Moore.
yeah, no, I know what you're talking about, but it's in North by Northwest,
Yeah.
he's like, they walk into the room with a phone call for Mr. Thornhill at the moment that, no, Kaplan. The phone call is for Kaplan. Thornhill is who he is. And he's like, excuse me, waiter, where's the bathroom? And he leaves with the waiter, and they're like, that's it. There's Kaplan. And then they're chasing him for the rest of the movie thinking he's Kaplan.
That's funny. That's you say that's one of the best.
That's one of the best movies ever, in my opinion.
Right. So let's go by Trump Tower and
Okay.
pay our respects. See if the BLM thing is still there.
Now, Charles, I was over here yesterday, and the question is it still the General Motors building?
I don't think so. I think they're out of there. Actually, I had two finalist choices for the office of the last firm that I ran, and I wanted to be in the. We had the same price. We could have had taken a partial floor in the General Motors building up on like the 28th floor or something, or a whole floor in a smaller building. We were going to take the Siemens offices, and I thought, that's the place to be. I mean, you come down, you're right in front of
Yeah.
The park, you know, you can sit in the park and have a sandwich at lunch if you want. But I got overruled.
Huh.
I didn't care that much which place, but let's let these people. Could you speak up a little? You want to get some plastic Dior expensive crap? I mean, look at this. This is made out of plastic. Look at this thing. What is that?
I mean,
Put on some clothes, mannequin.
I was going to say, if there was a wife or a girlfriend who wanted it,
No.
it's...
It's like, it's ridiculous.
I feel like there's something major that we're forgetting to talk about right now.
Well, I do want to talk about the Clinton Foundation. There's more to talk about.
Let her
there.
rip.
All right, but what were the other topics? I guess
I don't know.
we got the
Let's
war.
See what the comments are saying. People will remind us. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. Oh, we got 565 people watching.
On all channels or just this?
Well, just on this one.
Wow, thank you.
Janet Jackson's wardrobe, somebody is talking about.
She's,
Oh yeah, that was a Super Bowl deal.
Right, that was staged. I don't think that was an accident.
Oh no, there was the whole, the guy who was the wardrobe whatever, I saw making a video about how destructive to his career it was that they said it was a wardrobe malfunction. Well, nobody wanted to work with the guy again because his wardrobe is malfunctioning. And he says it wasn't a wardrobe malfunction, and then they just blamed it on him.
Right, that's what I'm saying. I think it probably wasn't a wardrobe. So here we go. You still have the Black Lives Matter stuff painted there, even though, you know, there is no Black Lives Matter legitimate organization that I'm aware of that's a charity. And, you know, you can arguably, you're making a political statement in front of somebody who decided to flee this state because it's so negative against his property interests. I mean, New York has, that idiot, Andrew Cuomo, had all these ads he was running for a while at the expense of the state, touting New York State as a place to have your business, and there was a program.
When was that?
Oh, it was a number of years ago. It was nonstop. It's like these stupid ads for COVID that you see in the New York State pays for. And on and on and on, this program, which in the end was a disaster, that no sensible person got involved with it, because you take, you know, $1 million in state aid, and now you got the elephant inside your company and looking at everything, second guessing everything. And in the end, if you do well, asking, you know, for a slice of your upside, and if you lose money, you got to pay it back. And it just was a disastrous program. And the fact that New York State is a horrific environment to do business, poor person. Let's show you across so we have the light or not.
Sure, I'm trying to get a good shot of you with Trump Tower.
Oh, okay,
and
thanks.
It's tricky.
Poor guy, poor lady.
Oh my God, yes.
Let's just keep walking. What is this?
Looks like she needs medical attention.
Again, you know, you have these policemen wandering around getting overtime.
But where are they?
Yeah, let's just stay away from that.
I'm not going to go near her, but somebody should tend to her.
They won't.
Where the hell are all the cops?
You know.
Charles, it's just ridiculous what's going on here.
It is. Yeah. Well, we were talking a little bit about Hillary Clinton, and she's going to be, I don't think you and I were talking about it, I don't think we talked about it on here. So Hillary Clinton is going to address the New York State Democratic Convention nominating committee or something on Thursday and Friday, or Wednesday and Thursday of this week, 16th, 17th. And there's a big buzz, of course. There's Captain Kangaroo here. There's a big buzz.
I think he heard you say that. He made a little face.
Big buzz of anticipation.
I don't like marsupials, Charles.
a big buzz is emanating now that Hillary's going to get back in the race. They're floating these arguments. She's been pictured in a hat that's embroidered on it. It says,
"That's ridiculous."
But her emails. So I'm going to encourage folks to watch carefully the space next week. You know, on Wednesday, And
He's speaking to some embroidery people.
could be doing that, and I'd like to have a hat that says "But Her Foundation," because the idea that you're going to make light of what she did while Secretary of State, and more to the point, I know one thing we need to talk about is Trump and this revelation in the latest Durham filing that
Right, that's what I was thinking.
that the Clinton campaign and others were collaborating with government officials to spy on Donald Trump while a candidate and while he was president,
Right.
to falsely implicate him in a chain of communication suggesting that he was directly in
Alpha.
contact with the Russians.
Yeah.
That is outrageous. And it's not like, with these political types, and some in business, they take the view, litigators take this view as well in law, that, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. And all that matters is not merely whether I'm caught, not whether I'm prosecuted, not whether I'm found guilty, but whether the charges ultimately stick.
Right.
And there's a long process, if you've got money, where you can fend off the worst and maybe even escape waiting for
Yes.
a doomcough like Joe Biden to come in. He's now going to release, I think he's releasing already a number of 9/11 plotters. And
What?
yeah, this guy's diabolical.
What do you mean? Why? Who is he releasing?
There's some guy,
Ramsey Youssef?
not Ramsey Youssef, but there's some other guy who wasn't one of the 2019, but he was.
Zacharias Moussaoui?
No, it's not him that he's talking about, but it's somebody.
Khalid Sheikh
No,
Mohammed?
it's not one of the big names. It's it's one of the. Anyway, it's
the biggest name in 9/11 plotting, Charles. Coming
But-
to Madison Square Garden.
but so the Clinton crowd and the Obama crowd, really, when we look at the big picture, we need to focus on what's really going on with China and how China entered the WTO and whether China was involved helping Bill Clinton to get reelected in 1996.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Hasn't that already been found?
Right, exactly. And the various people around Clinton in that time frame went on with people like Kissinger to work hand in glove with the communists in China. And this is not, a case of bad business judgment. This is not a case. This would be like if a bunch of Americans, and some were actually, if a bunch of Americans were instrumental in putting Hitler in power
Right.
and keeping him
Prescott
and,
Bush.
and entrenching him in power to the point where Hitler was a rising power and we were a declining power. That's what we're talking about here with China. The people who have enabled the China grift and growth scam, which it is. I mean, the math on this Chinese economic growth argument is total rubbish. The numbers are cooked just like the jobs numbers are cooked here in the U.S. The people behind all this who are profiled in depth in Peter Schweitzer's book are likely people who work very closely with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama and Joe Biden and others to obstruct Trump in the campaign and then to obstruct his presidency and now to persecute him post-presidency. And he is absolutely right to stand up now and demand, as he is, prosecutions. He called this treason. He said it's treason. There needs to be prosecution. There needs to be reparations for him. And his, what?
Tesla taxi.
I thought you were talking about H. Stern.
Don't know anything about H.
That's
Stern,
real, you
but
don't?
I do want to stop and speak to these police officers for a moment. They're the first cops we've seen in 6 blocks.
You
But
want
I'm
me to
gonna
do
be
it?
nice.
It might be a bit intimidating if you do
No,
it on
no.
camera. You want me to
I'm going to wave. And here's COVID testing.
confession and go get... you want me to hold it while you do it? Or
No, that's fine. I'm just going to get their attention and I'm going to let them know that woman is going to die on 56th Street.
Yeah. There's nobody in there.
Figures.
But yeah, there is.
No, there is. Excuse me, officer. There's a woman on the southwest corner of 56th and 5th who looks like she's about to freeze to death. Please text somebody to go help her. Guy's busy sitting in the car doing nothing. That woman's probably got hypothermia. He literally was in there texting.
That was a Larry David
And he looked like he was
moment.
15, that guy. Did you see him?
Yeah. That's your
What the hell
Larry
are the
David
cops doing,
moment.
Charles?
You want to go to what's left of Madison Avenue, or do you want to stay on Fifth?
This is whatever. I don't mind.
Let's check out what's left of Madison, because it's actually, last time I went, there's not much left.
Hopefully those cops can go save that woman's life. She looked like she was going to freeze to death.
It's
Throw a blanket on her. Take her somewhere.
it's sad.
It is. What's even more sad is that you walk for 7 blocks. If somebody attacked somebody, you'd be screaming, and that guy'd be sitting in the car with the windows closed texting.
Right, of course, that's his job. Chief texting officer. You want to get some Louis Vuitton shit?
So they finally have come and said that, Durham has figured out that Hillary. I mean, forgive me, Charles, for not being more excited about these revelations, but when major newspapers or news websites and law enforcement people come to conclusions like 3 years after you and I already knew it, I'm not that amazed.
Well, yeah, it just, I think it is definitely the case, and it's a sign that you should probably be able to slash government expenditures by 30% or 35% without even
33%.
33%, yeah, without even thinking too hard about it. But you have a meeting, and people come to the meeting and tell us what you care about, what you're working on in government. It's the first person goes, I care about lesbian lizards in the
right, LGBTQ
lizards. All right, that's good.
Reptiles.
Tell you what, you can spend the rest of your life doing that, but you're not going to get a government paycheck from this minute.
Oh, wait a
You're
minute.
out of it.
Speaking of lizards, there's this person that was. I need a hockey game air horn, Charles.
No,
Go right up to that taxi,
you-
right in the window.
You need like a water balloon filled with red
Oh, just
paint.
no,
No, red paint, like right on the window. But what were we talking about? No.
We were talking about. Yeah, I forgot.
Both of us forgot.
See, at least when you're here with me, people were complaining yesterday. Oh, you're
look
not
at-
finishing stories.
Me?
Me.
Oh, okay.
Because
Look at
No, I know. I walk down the street, and it's just so very easy
to get
to
distracted.
become distracted by all the things that are going on.
You were talking about Durham and not taking time.
Durham, right.
So the issue here is, what people need to focus upon is the why, right? Why would Barack Obama, an historic figure, as the first African American president, he's an historic figure.
African American.
African, exactly. That's a good one, Jason. A African American.
Yeah.
Okay. So look at this. Almost the whole street is out. Look at this.
I've seen it all over. There's many blocks where the whole entire block is out.
Right.
And people from Texas want to tell me, don't be a negative, Nancy. Let's focus on the positive.
But that's right. You got one leg left.
Yeah.
Right.
These are all businesses that someone could come
Right.
start.
Exactly. Mommy, I'm getting a pony for Christmas. No, that's just a pile of shit. But anyway,
So Durham.
So in Durham, we have to ask ourselves, why would Barack Obama, because he obviously, he was briefed, we know, by Brennan, that Hillary was, had cooked up a plan. This is the official story. Now, most likely it was Barack's idea, but he was supposedly briefed by Brennan that Hillary was going to falsely accuse Trump of being in league with the Russians by July of 2016, right? So why would Barack Obama, an historic figure, work so hard, first of all, to make sure that Joe didn't succeed him? The logical time for Joe to have run was 2016.
Right.
And instead to install somebody who had worked so hard against Barack Obama in the 2007-8 timeframe, and whose instincts absolutely cannot be trusted. right? No matter what, I wouldn't trust that person, Hillary Clinton, to deposit $10 million into her own account.
It sounded very Bill Clinton-esque what you just said. I would not trust that woman, Hillary Clinton.
I didn't say woman, I said person.
Oh, sorry.
I'm not necessarily satisfied on that front. Anyway, so in the case of the Durham escapade, you have to ask yourself, what were these people so deathly afraid of? And I think what it is this issue of the Chinese had infiltrated so deeply into Washington, D.C., Republicans, Democrats alike, and had compromised so many different people, from Dianne Feinstein and her husband, to the Clintons, perhaps the Obamas, certainly the Bidens, and many senators.
There's another one, Charles.
You choose hemp.
Something with weed. Oh, CNN likes this one.
It's featured
so
in CNN.
So that's got to be good.
Yeah, that's right. Don Lemon likes it. Boy, this is the store here.
That's what I mean.
Blue Rest Farms. It's open.
All of these weed places are opening now.
You've gone from having this is Blue Rest Farms next to Bluestone Lane. Look at this, Jason. I think isn't Bluestone Lane a coffee shop?
Is it part of the?
Well, I used to work.
Oh yeah, you're right. It's coffee and weed.
I used to work 6 blocks up at 54th Street at Dillery and 7 blocks up at 55th Street. And so I used to, when I lived on 37th and Park, I'd walk up and down Madison or Park. And so this area...
And you thought to yourself, if only we had a weed store here.
Well, I just remember this, even in bad times in the 80s, the early 80s. I remember I bought my apartment in 83. And it was, it wasn't as bad as this. This is like fucking Tombstone. But anyway, back on Durham.
Yeah.
I think part of the answer, not just because we spent so much time on it, turning to the Clinton Foundation, is that it was embarrassing to Comey and Mueller and Rosenstein and others that they spent 4 years, in theory, investigating the Clinton Foundation with all the resources of the FBI. There's a 3-part thing on the William J. Clinton Foundation FBI vault file. And the description of it, the capsule that you're so good at doing for all the videos, is horrible and gets the name of the foundation incorrect. And the description, in the case is incorrect. It talks about how the William J. Clinton Foundation is a New York-based operation engaging in activities here and there. In 2005, when they completed the investigation, having spent 4 years on it, Clinton Foundation wasn't registered in New York.
Oops.
and Hillary was representing New York as the junior senator. Was
that wrong? Should I not have done that?
And the Clintons had set up something called the Clinton Family Foundation in 2001, which, when it's the thing that you've noticed looking for foundations on certain websites, when you put that into New York State, nothing comes up. But if you put in the EIN,
right, magical things happen.
It does come up, but there's no determination that there's no Form 1023, there's no articles, there's no bylaws. But that thing is in fact registered with the Secretary of State in New York. There are all these cop cars. Unfortunately for the Clintons personally, it's Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea are the directors of it, and that thing has given multiple times to the Clinton Foundation in times where the Clinton Foundation had no articles, no bylaws, wasn't registered, and therefore was not actually a legitimate public charity, though it's characterized as such in the Clinton family filings. So you start looking at this, it's a twisted mess going back to its very inception when, after it was determined that Charlie Tree had made illegal contributions,
right,
they needed a way to raise money for Hillary's campaign eventually and to pay off their massive legal bills. And so they created this Clinton Foundation.
But wait a minute, what happened to Charlie Tree? Was he deported and that's it? Larry was very involved in that whole...
Defending him or getting him?
No, in revealing Chinagate. That's where Larry first dug in against the Clintons.
Is that right?
Yeah, but I think that's also the reason that he left the Department of Justice, because I don't think anything happened to Charlie Tree.
No, I forget what happened. I forget what happened. But the point is, this Clinton Foundation, the first attempt of actually been...
It's really snowing now.
Yeah. You told me it was going to end.
I know.
And on that basis, I did this walk.
Well, sorry.
I want my money back.
Yeah.
But, so the first audit for the Clinton Foundation, in theory, was done June 9th, 2006, and it covered 4 and 5. And we've talked about this before, and we'll get into this in the studio show again. But real audits actually have hidden numbers that you can tease out of them, because if you know what you're doing. Well, the balance sheet as of 2004 tells you the status of the financial position of the company December 31st, 2004. The income statement and the cash flow statement for 2004 cover the whole year 2004. So if you reverse certain entries in the income statement and cash flow statement against the period end balance sheet, you can derive the December 31st, 2003 balance sheet, which I've done.
Is this something that not everybody knows?
Everybody in business understands it, should understand this. Anybody who's serious about business should get this. That analysis shows that with regard to 2003, the opening balance sheet with a net worth of $94.5 million has a $40.4 million slug of errors. Assets are overstated by $40.4 million, and liabilities are overstated as well by $40.4 million. So the math works because there are offsetting gigantic errors, and they should be known because in the case of the smallest one, payables, which is 11,878,696, happens to be the number, there is no way that creditors to the Clinton Foundation, that people who were thinking about lending money to the Clinton Foundation or extending credit to the Clinton Foundation would have given them that much credit off the fucked up state of affairs that the thing was in on December 31st, 2003. And indeed, that number...
This guy's going crazy right here.
That number is a forced number that reverses out of the financial statements in 2000, by 2005-6 time frame. So that's a mistake. And it's a gigantic error that accountants, BKD, and management had to know they were forcing that number in there. The next number is 28479870, which is 2 loans that in the 990s for 2004 through about 7, they state that those loans in every one of those 990s, which are then circulated to multiple states, all submitted under penalties of perjury, all of those filings say that each of those 2 loans were taken out on February 20th, 2004. So they couldn't have been outstanding on December 31st, 2003. So with those 2 errors on the liability, you have to search for assets being overstated. And the obvious one turns out to be property, plant, and equipment. So when you reverse those, you shrink the balance sheet back down. But importantly, those errors are errors that somebody like a John Glasgow, the CFO, would have absolutely seen. He being a CPA and the CFO of the contracting firm, which we all know from experience, at least I know from experience, the toughest part of any building project is the very end of it. Because that's when you're going over budget, most likely. You're concerned, clearly, anybody who's, other than a corrupt government official is concerned about going over budget. And it happens that when you reverse these gigantic sums out of the balance sheet, you come much closer in line to the original estimate for how much the project would have cost. You're down to like 84 million by the end of 2005, 85 million or thereabouts for the building part of it, which is quite close to what they estimated in the beginning. the thing would cost in May of 2002. So these errors just leap off the page and should have been found after the FBI gave up in 2005 by the vaunted team that studied this beginning January 2016. You should have seen this. And you should have seen as well that in 2005, here's a really interesting one. There's a new thing I'm going to throw on you called FASB 136, which I know is something that's near and dear to your heart. It's the Financial Accounting Standards Board pronouncement number 136. And that deals with how you account for so-called agency transactions, where one charity acts as an agent for another. Now, the rules on acting as an agent are somewhat complex.
What do you mean acting as an agent?
All right, so if you're a charity that has the latitude to raise money for disaster relief around the world, and something in India happens, and you decide that your charity is too busy building the library in Little Rock, you just haven't even started it, frankly, and you don't want to muddy the landscape. You say, you know what, I like this American India Foundation project to help in Gujarat. I'm going to act as an agent for that charity, and I'll use my ability to solicit funds, all the filings I've made around states and localities in the U.S., assuming I have the authority to solicit funds for disaster relief, I'll use that authority to act as an agent for the American India Foundation, and I won't charge the American India Foundation much. You know, sometimes you negotiate an administrative fee or some sort of fee, but generally you don't get compensated all that much because you already have overhead inside your foundation, and that's already paid for, and you're just asking people to work a little harder to solicit funds for a good cause. So,
but it seems like that they could use that to send money all over the place the way the Clintons do.
Right. Well, so the if I'm doing the some would say, the corollary of the some would say argument that Barack Obama uses, the if there is you have to have legitimate authority to raise money for disaster relief projects, and the Clinton Foundation has never had that authority. So, legitimately. So, what they claim in this 2005 thing doesn't look very open.
I was going to say that's the best sign we've seen today.
Let's keep going because these guys are noisy.
And we missed that health IV truck. Did you see that?
I didn't know. That place used to be a sandwich shop there. Maybe it still is. Anyway, so what the Clintons do in 2005, and BK did, this is, mind you, their first attempt to have a legitimate audit. They say, what we're going to do is we're going to say we raised $26.4 million for Bush Clinton Katrina Fund, and we're just going to keep it. We're just going to put it in net earnings, temporarily restricted net earnings, but we're going to count it as our profit.
That's
so roughly
amazing.
Half of the profit of 54 and change, 55 if you round it, roughly half of the profit declared by the Clinton Foundation, almost exactly half, is money that in theory should have been given to the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund, but that as a practical matter shouldn't even have been raised by the Clinton Foundation, because it was raised, I think, from Little Rock and from New York, but the Clinton Foundation not until July 29th, 2009.
What about all the people who gave that money to go to Katrina?
It's like, I was a fool when Diana died. There was a big, glass jar or plastic jar at the first class lounge in American Airlines in London, and I had extra English money, and I just stuffed a 20-pound note in there, and I thought, well, it's for a nice cause. I kind of liked her.
But I'm sure they just keep it.
Of course, there's some big booze-up party as a kid. Wow, this used to be nice.
It's for rent.
Gone.
Yeah.
So
all of this. Look at the wait. Just take this in for a second, Charles.
This is where I used to live, around the corner from
But
here.
everything on both sides of the street.
I know. That used to be.
I guess, is Dunkin' Donuts still open?
Yeah, remember they rebranded it Dunkin'.
But it doesn't.
And it's not.
And
The
also,
liquor store is moving. Is here. But this used to be Morgan's Hotel. It was a very trendy boutique hotel, one of the early boutique hotels.
Right.
But
Garbage.
yeah, that's the Polish consulate right there,
We basically have donuts and the cleaner, and then everything else is closed.
and J.P. Morgan's house, now a museum.
Huh.
Right,
So they had no authorization to collect this money
but
from Rajat Gupta.
No, not for, I'm talking now from Bush, Clinton, Katrina, and they keep in this audit, they keep that on the books as they counted as net earnings of the Clinton Foundation, which is absolutely wrong. It should have been treated as a liability. They include it in revenues, which is against FASB 136, and in New York, unlike many other states, New York has had a lot of experience with swindlers. So the charity law by the New York Nonprofit Corporation Act of 1993 and other legislation defines what constitutes an audit. Some other states don't, and it says specifically you have to procure an audit from an independent firm, and BKD was not independent.
How frequently do they have to do it?
Once a year. And
Wow.
And it has to be performed using generally accepted accounting principles in the United States, and it specifically says, including all pronouncements of the American, I forget which one it was, Institute of Certified Public Accounts, or there's some regulatory body, but basically it would encompass this FASB 136. So those revenues should not have been counted. Obviously, profits shouldn't have been counted in the income statement, and instead you should have had, on the one side, you should have had an assets held for Bush Clinton Katrina Fund if you legitimately could have been an agent, and on the liability side due to Bush Clinton Katrina Fund. That's what should have been there, but that is not the way they did it. It's plainly not in accordance with GAAP. It is a material error. It's $26 million on
Something just happened.
what? Maybe it's the scaffold?
You got super quiet, almost like the battery died on your microphone.
Hands are frozen.
Yeah, this light went off. There's like no sound coming in here. Weird. Let me check this one. Here, hold that for just one quick second.
Production credit.
The battery died. Here, I luckily I brought more batteries, Charles.
Good.
Will be just a second.
It is cold.
Yeah, and that makes batteries work less well than sometimes when it's not as cold. It also makes fingers work not as well.
Is that the right way? You have them both the same way.
That is how this one works.
Okay.
Let's hear you talk now.
Hi there. Does it work?
Yes, that fixed it.
Good.
See, sometimes I get right to the heart of the problem, Charles.
Good.
Okay, sorry, you were saying.
That's right. Just make sure you give my production credit in there.
Yes, battery,
Helmsman, whatever.
whatever.
Helmsman of the phone.
The Bush Clinton Katrina Fund.
So they shouldn't. This is a $26 million overstatement of revenue and profit with regard to 2005. And more importantly, when you go through the history of this thing, I checked this today, there are no filings in New York for the Bush Clinton Katrina Fund. There should be, because they clearly raised money in New York. And in fact, there was a public service announcement on C-SPAN September 2nd or thereabouts, 2nd or 3rd.
What year?
2005. The Bush Clinton Katrina Fund was not incorporated until October 4th, but there was a lot of fundraising in August, September timeframe, which is typically the pattern. Right after a disaster, money just floods in, typically to the Red Cross, Salvation Army, and it just comes in a torrent of, $1, $5, $20, $100 donations. And there were stories about it. In fact, there's an FBI warning about, be careful. People will say they're raising money for the Katrina, but there may not be a legitimate organization. Make sure you check and see that there is one. There wasn't one. It wasn't incorporated till October 4th. and it only received tax exemption on December 13th, 2005. So there is no reason why the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund should have, why the Clinton Foundation should have kept the $26.4 million into 2006. It should have gone in 2005 to the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund. And indeed, there are stories, numerous print stories, about how the local people were furious down in New Orleans in that area.
Right.
That a lot of money had been raised, but none of it was filtering into the community. And
am I correct, Charles, that part of the problem is if each individual gave $5, no donor is too particularly invested in figuring out where the money went once they've given it?
That's one of the problems, but a lot of the Walmart Foundation gave, I think, $8 million. I may have that wrong. It might have been Clinton Bush hated it. They gave $8 million, but I think Walmart gave a bunch of money, and various governments gave a lot of money. Corporations gave money. I think the New York Yankees gave money, and so. But you're right. There's a lot. You could write easily a couple hundred pages just on the Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund because its paperwork is so fucked up, and you can go, as I've started to do. You look at the people that Bush-Clinton-Katrina Fund claims they gave money to, and you discover that a lot of them are fraudulent. No, they're frauds. Some of them are frauds that had to be wound up. So anyway, the first audit is an epic disaster. They didn't account for something that represented roughly a quarter of the net worth, the declared net worth. You know, it's overstated when you, in 2000, year-end 2005 is overstated by 26.4 million, which is an absurd overstatement.
Smells like fried chicken.
And shit, and dog shit. But anyway, and then you move into 2006, that financial statement is screwed up as well. 2007 counts, again, the same problem. They are acting as agent for Unitate and other governments, but they account for the monies received from Unitate as if it flows into the net worth of the Clinton Foundation, and it shouldn't have been accounted for in that way, and they weren't legitimately authorized to do international work fighting HIV and AIDS. So not a single year of the period N3 and then 4, 5, 6, 7, not a single year of the supposed audits are accurate, are in conformity with GAAP, and therefore the filings that the Clinton Foundation has made that still are outstanding in New York are all wrong, and therefore the filing's not complete, and they're in violation, and they haven't corrected it. And all subsequent work is wrong because the initial stuff is wrong. So, other than that,
how'd you like to play, Mrs.
right.
Lincoln?
And so, for Hillary and her people to think that they're going to have, a flurry of positive thinking about her, to replace Joe or to run in 2020.
I don't know, Charles. You look at her Twitter thing, and everyone's like, "Oh, please run for president."
Well,
like, who the hell is writing this?
There's a bottom half of every class, Jason, and it's big.
Or sock puppet Twitter accounts.
It's big in her case, and people like even Tucker are excited. Oh, run, please run! I can cover you falling off a chair without even thinking. And I think that's wrong. I think this country needs a real debate, not between fake, obvious grifters pretending to care about you.
Octogenarian grifters.
Yeah, I mean, it should be. Let's have AOC and her people mount the hard left campaign. Take that script out to the public, and let's have a sensible candidate on the other side say, fuck that, and let's see who wins in a legitimate election. Let's have that referendum. Let's settle it once and for all. And I don't think, based on the situation right now, I don't think that the AOC agenda wins in the country. It'll win New York, it'll win San Francisco, it'll win the bombed out husks of this country that have been run by people who believe in that shit. But it's not going to sweep the country, I don't think.
AOC has piped down somewhat lately.
She should. I agree with Adam Carolla.
What did he say? Oh yeah, nobody would care if she was 65.
And fat.
Yeah. I think nobody cares anyway.
I agree. I mean, you had
Here's a dog wearing a sweater.
Cashmere sweater, it looks like.
Wow. Well, he's a King Charles Spaniel, isn't he?
You're the dog expert.
Hardly, but I do believe this is a...
It needs the dog needs booties. Explain to me.
I'm a big fan of the shoes.
You are or not?
I think it's hilarious when dogs are wearing shoes.
No, the reason they
hate them.
Well, they claim that it's important around this time of year because there's salt on the ground.
Right.
And
But
that
even
rock
if
salt,
it's not, I mean...
that rock salt is very bad for.
Hurts the feet, I know.
Yeah.
But it looks funny when the dog's wearing shoes and they almost always hate it.
Yeah.
Is your dog a King Charles Spaniel?
He is a Cavalier.
Cavalier, very cute.
Thank you.
Cavalier.
Interrupt him while he's...
Cavalier is
urinating.
to the wrong side. That's what
She was very cavalier in her explanation of that
you
dog.
got the
Charles.
Royalists, which is the correct side, and the Cavaliers with the round heads.
I don't know
Descended
anything
in.
about that. I just know
That's-
my friend had a dog just like that, and named Charlie. Very sweet little dog.
Well, it's interesting you would say that. I didn't know anything about it either until I retired and started filling in gaps in my learning, including history. And anybody who wants to understand the American Revolution needs to study the English Civil War. Until you do that, you're
English Civil War?
absolutely.
I didn't even know there was an English Civil
It
War.
lasted for like 19 years.
Wow, when was it?
It said open. It's like, when did Hitler come to power? Some argue it started as early as 1627 and culminated a little more than the period I'm talking. King Charles was executed the first in 1649, and Oliver Cromwell came to power in a Republican government that descended into tyranny. It was so horrible that the people of England reached out to Prince Charles II, who had fled, and invited him to come back. Invited the monarchy back. It was that
Wow.
bad. And so
And I guess
the people of, then that's 1649 to 1662, or 3 when he came back, roughly. And so, the impulses support, King Charles I and his father were diabolical. They really overreached and committed all kinds of abuses.
there's Weed World all the way over there.
Wow.
No, it's not Weed World. Was it say White?
White something or other. That's a food truck.
Huh.
I think we're close to where Chelsea lives.
Yeah.
Somewhere around here. I don't want to point her apartment out, but
Well, so
Certainly.
if he was diabolical, why'd they name a dog after him?
you did see that dog pee on the building, didn't you? Or the...
Charles, there's more stuff than ever out of business.
That just means there's more opportunity, Jason.
Someone in the audience is annoyed that I don't laugh at your jokes.
That's okay.
Well, it's part of the deadpan. It's funnier for the audience, like, and also sometimes I don't hear them until later.
Right.
First of all, there's a delay, so even.
Hey, look, there's a Whole
Oh
Foods.
wow, yeah.
That's new,
Oh, you know what? I do remember seeing that. I think it just opened. It's giant,
Just to cater to Chelsea.
maybe.
So,
Oh, I meant to tell you, Whole Foods at my apartment building over there has added self-checkout, which
Right.
for the operation of that particular business is a huge boon, because the biggest problem with it was the gigantic line from having only 4 pissed off people working there.
right.
But
Half
now,
work in there.
well, right, and now they probably lost their jobs, so we're one step closer to the technocratic
Right.
takeover.
Right. So back then, for a second, on the English Civil War. So that was the case where, the people in theory won, but the excesses of the Republican government became a tyranny. And one side of the story, which is the royalist side of the story, in 1649, King Charles I was a man of principle who refused to acknowledge the court that he sat in front of. He was not legitimate in his eyes.
I remember you telling me
And
this.
so he won on principle, but he was executed, so
Ooh,
that
that's
didn't
not
work
so
so
good.
well. So King Charles, I think II, said, they worried what he might do. He spent the rest of his life hunting down every single judge who was still living. In certain cases, he had people who had died dug up, and then
Desecrated the body?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. It's rough times back then.
I was gonna say, I gotta say, I like that guy's style. I might look into that.
And then one of his sons, James, I had this ancestor called Major General at his death, Robert Beverly, and he was. Do you want to walk through here? Walk around maybe. And then
Sure.
To the left. He was he was a royalist, and he went to Virginia in around 16. I want to say 50 odd, and ended up in Virginia. He had a big landowner and stuff, and he was in the House of Burgesses. I think he was a speaker. I may have that wrong, but he was a senior guy in government in the colony, and he kind of decided that Virginia was going to be run by him.
For lovers?
No, it was going to be run by him and his clique. And that king dude, he could say what he wanted, but he wasn't in Virginia. And so the king went over his head. I forget exactly what he did, but he did the simple story, a version of the story is he went over Beverly's head, and Beverly was having none of it.
Huh.
And there's I don't know, speeches or proclamations where the king is calling out Robert Beverly by name, saying, "You pissed me off for this reason, that reason," and they had him arrested. Another ancestor, Major General Robert Smith, had to go over. Their buddies had to arrest him, and because they were buddies, they let Beverly be arrested on his yacht, his sailing yacht.
And then he created the cure.
No. And then, anyway.
Do you get that joke?
I don't.
But you laughed. See, that's the thing. Sometimes you laugh at my jokes, and I'm like,
I
"There's no
assume
way
it's funny.
Charles got that joke."
I assume it's funny.
But there are Cure fans in the audience like, yes, Robert Smith.
Okay.
And then there's going to be South Park fans who are going to want to Rochambeau him. Here's a new art installation, Charles.
Yeah. I'm sure that will cost a few bucks. Well, there's a description of it here. So anyway, some believe that the experience of Robert Beverly was the impetus for putting into the body of the Constitution the habeas corpus, because what the king did is he had caused Beverly to be arrested, but did not prefer charges. He didn't say specifically what he was being arrested for, and it wouldn't produce the guy. So some argue that is one case that was an impetus for including habeas corpus in the body of the Constitution. But anyway, the excesses of the English Civil War are worth studying, because you see those same excesses happening now
Today.
in places like Michigan. In New York, you have
In Michigan, what are you talking about?
the Gretchen Whitmer or tyrannical rule, or this Kathy Hochul,
There
who's
is
an
a lot
idiot and not even elected, and she's tried to get legislation passed that would give her the ability herself, subject to no oversight,
to just determine that you're a health threat.
if you may have been exposed to COVID,
Yeah.
then she can have you put in
Interred.
Interred. I mean, you got to be kidding me. Why would you even go down the path of thinking like something that's stupid? Right? To
She
prove
doesn't
you're
seem
stupid?
smart.
Well, it doesn't.
It's quite interesting, Charles, to observe how empty the park is today. Well, it's
Well,
filled
it's
with
a
snow.
little cold.
And it's way colder. It's like 30 degrees colder today than it was yesterday.
Yeah,
It's
I think
really
you were in a
astounding.
different universe yesterday. I don't think it's impossible for there to be that much variation in the weather.
It was the metaverse of madness.
Yeah.
The multiverse, I mean. The metaverse is Mark Zuckerberg. I saw some headline that apparently Microsoft and Bill Gates are doing something to disrupt the Zuck metaverse.
Well, yeah, I just think that whole idea is stupid. I mean, I really think there's a lot, once we get done with these stupid ass lockdowns, and once we understand what really happened beginning before March 2020, who's responsible for this?
I hope that day comes, Charles, because I think there's a lot of events similar in terms of their level of deception that we still don't know the answer to.
Right, and so especially including,
What is this person doing?
it's a snowball fight. in 2020, 2016, what really happened during the election, what was Hillary up to, what was Obama up to.
I'm talking September 11th, 2001,
Yeah.
November 22nd, 1963, things like this.
Yeah, exactly.
This is a nice, there was a little bit of a dog.
Why do you think this is browner than the rest? I hope it's not. I hope
It's
not,
a slurry.
I hope it's not a function of
Oh,
our
wow, look at how filthy that white dog's feet are. It's going to be a fun return to the apartment for whoever owns that dog. Well, Charles, it was interesting to see the weather. A lot of the COVID testing tents are not out today.
This is closed for maintenance. It's actually, when you spend as much time as we spent in the cold, it's cold.
It's a little bit chilly, I'll admit.
I think that building, 10 Madison Square West, is that where Bezos lives?
I think so. Didn't we have a Christmas caroling
I think
event
that was in
outside
front of that building over there.
I don't remember specifically.
But yeah, with the kids and the
Let's just see if
correct.
anybody...
Somebody recognized you.
What? Hi. Sorry, I didn't recognize you. Well, I was just checking if there's anybody getting in on the comments, but it's a little bit too much to people saying hello on the street, trying to maintain a conversation with you and read the comments. Maybe we'll do the comments later. So, Charles, we're almost done with our show here. I am going to announce a new show that I'm going to do on Tuesday nights.
What's that, Jason?
It's going to be a counter lawfare show where I'm going to go over the details of the lawsuits that I am facing, because there is some really, truly sinister stuff developing.
That's not good.
And people who have been watching the docket are aware of it. People who listen to the Super Mario Brothers are being lied to. So I want to make sure that people who are watching the show and sponsoring the show know what is going on. I also want to let people know that they can sponsor the Counter Lawfare Fund on crowdsourcethetruth.com.
What's the name of the show?
I haven't named it yet, but it's just going to be me going over the lawsuits, anything and everything lawsuits. I'm going to have it on Patreon and Subscribestar because it's going to be dealing with things that I'm totally within my rights to discuss, but are likely to trigger YouTube policy complaints, which are quite different from violations of actual law. So people who are already sponsors will be able to watch that. People who are interested in learning more about it can become sponsors on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. And what else did I have here that I wanted to show? Oh, yeah.
Well, wait, on that subject, basically what you're doing is you're doing your best to make sure that the February jobs report is strong, giving yourself a new job.
Exactly.
Creating jobs.
The other thing I wanted to tell you, Charles, is that someone has purchased another one of the Crowdsource the Truth NFTs.
Very good.
Green Regs and Scam is now owned by an anonymous
nice.
crypto investor. So there's still two up there if people are interested in owning one of the first four. Obviously, the very first one ever is owned by an individual who emailed me that he's totally delighted with it, and now we have an anonymous second owner.
Good.
But I have a new deal to announce as well.
What's that?
If there are wealthy viewers out there who want to sponsor the Counter Lawfare Fund for $1,000, you're going to get all of the benefits that are listed there on crowdsourcethetruth.com, a 3-year gift membership, memberships for friends and family. You're also going to have an opportunity to select any Crowdsource the Truth thumbnail image that I have ever created.
Other than the ones
that have already been offered as NFTs, and I will create a custom NFT for that sponsor, and they'll be the only person to ever own that. It's a special bonus that I'm offering for the remainder of February.
That's a nice thing. I mean, because honestly, the body of artwork there, not just for our shows, but the other ones you do, there's a tremendous amount of artwork.
Thank you.
And it's really, a lot of it's incredibly fantastic.
Thanks, Charles. and hopefully people are excited about NFTs. I don't know if they're going to be worth something or not.
You know what? I'm looking at that.
David's bridal.
I'm just thinking, I mean, call me stupid, but I don't know many men who are experts on bridal matters. You know, I would have, right? I would have thought that it's more logical.
A lot of fashion guys are men.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, you know.
Diane's bridal?
Yeah, or
That's sexist,
Deborah's.
Charles.
Well, I just think, I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know. It's like, if you're going to tell me that you got, you know, Sal's Pizza Shop, you know, Sal's Pizzeria, I'm going to say that's probably pretty good. You know,
But
but
there
if
was a
it's,
Sal's Pizza over by 21st Century 3D. It was absolutely terrible.
I'm just saying, you know, chances are Italians are going to know how to make pizza better than, let's say, you know,
You mean
Uyghurs.
Shlomo's
Yeah,
pizza?
Shlomo's Pizza. We passed the Uyghurs.
We did. I think I tweeted the Uyghur restaurant. Wait, you just reminded me of something that I forgot to finish talking about, and now I'm on the verge of forgetting it again. No, wait a minute. What were we just thinking about? Oh,
Pizza, bridal shop.
right. Yes. Okay. Joe Biden, you mentioned before, LGBT. So Joe Biden has made the new Department of Energy,
Oh, God, yeah.
like director of nuclear waste disposal. I have no issue with somebody being a member of the LGBTQ community. I just find it unprofessional when they present themselves, you know, when we're talking about their job and their professional
Right.
capacity, to like lipstick and, you know, dressing in drag and things like this. Just seems unprofessional for somebody who's working for the government in the Department of Energy.
It is working. The person is working in the Biden administration. I mean, you've
Right.
got. I mean, Tucker is just every show wails on boot edge. Not because of his sexuality, but because
Well, he's stupid.
he's confidently stupid.
Yeah.
It's very arrogantly stupid. I mean, where is he now in the midst of this? What has he had to say about the Canadian trucker situation? What's
I
the
don't know.
status of the supply chain stuff? Careful.
Yeah.
What is this?
This is somewhere nowhere, according to the sign.
Yeah, it's a.
That's pretty weird.
Right there.
Now, the other thing is across the street it says space for lease. Reminded me that
It's
30,
right next to Goodwill.
30
Badwill.
Elon Musk Starlink satellites somehow degraded orbit and crashed.
Huh.
And then NASA is upset that he has too many satellites there.
Yeah. He's a guy, an example of a guy who wears too many hats. Tesla.
Is this a weed place? Axiom Medical?
I don't think so.
And then maybe it's a COVID testing place. If you want donuts, weed, or COVID, you're in the right place.
Here you go. Pisillo, another name I probably wouldn't have.
Sandwich place.
Yeah, Pisillo. Let's go over to Pisillo's and have a sandwich.
That might be good, actually, though.
Pisillo?
Italian deli?
Oh, sure.
Right, I don't know.
And the financial gym? Debit, credit,
That's perfect for you. Right. You're in there like, more
discounted
reps,
cash
Charles.
flow, EPS.
That's hilarious.
I
The financial gym. What is it?
don't know. Part of the tomato bank.
I thought it was the Melon Bank.
No, they changed the name of it's like number 7 industrial mid-market Japanese bank. They changed the name with this great fanfare to the Tomato Bank.
But you're the one who told them that it was stupid.
I did. I didn't tell them. I told my Japanese employer, who was much more significant bank, then called the Industrial Bank of Japan. They said, "This is great. Look at this ad." I said, "This is ridiculous." Well, no, because it went on and on and on. Like the tomato, which is neither a fruit nor a vegetable, or I forget what they would, some ridiculous, yeah, I know, but it was, it was like this ridiculous argument. And this Japanese guy, the senior Japanese guy says, "Charles, don't you understand? They're just following the example of an American bank." So what are you talking about? Melon Bank. I said, "That is not named after the fruit, you moron. It's named after the melon family. And it's spelled MELLON.
Like, oh, someone losing face.
Yeah, exactly. The cigarette, like, yeah.
Oh man! All right. Well, Charles, we are here at the end of today's episode. Thanks everybody for watching. Have a wonderful evening. Stay warm, and please become a sponsor on subscribestar.com/crowdsourcethetruth or patreon.com/crowdsourcethetruth. See, Charles, I told you it would stop snowing.
We walk till June, I'm sure it will. But we should close by mentioning the superb owl.
Oh yes, enjoy the superb owl.
Right, and
Have a great night.
and the end of football season, thankfully.
Yeah. Get ready to get sacked. Take it easy, everybody.